Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Church of Evanston. My name is Mary Dudek and my pronouns are she and hers. Whether this is your spiritual home or you are newly discovering this community, we're grateful to share this time together. We strive to be an inclusive and welcoming community, seeking truth and love and nurturing the human spirit for a world made whole. We are guided by our principles and values, which remind us in every moment and through every challenge that each of us is worthy of love and that we are all connected through the vast and beautiful web of existence. We come together to remember our kinship with one another and to hold one another in heart and mind with tenderness and careful attention, and to dedicate ourselves more fully to living our shared values. Welcome to those joining us online. We hope you have your chalices ready. People of all ages are a welcome and important part of our faith community. We are blessed to have the children in the sanctuary for the first half of every service, and the entire service is for all ages about once a month, including today. The nest in the front is our designated area for families with young children, where we have quiet fidget toys and activities and a kid-friendly order of service. Nursery care is available every Sunday in room 11 in the lower level, which you can access via the stairs at the back of the sanctuary. As part of being a welcoming and inclusive community, we have some information posted on the screen shortly that will help orient you to UCE and our service. And now a few announcements. Next Sunday is our annual in-gathering and water communion service. Yay! You're invited to bring a little water from home or from your summer adventures, near or far, to symbolize our interconnection with each other and all things. Following our service, we'll gather for kinship and a picnic on the lawn, weather permitting. Bring a dish to share or your own picnic lunch if you'd like. The UCE Friday Fun Dance Party is this Friday, September 5th, from 6 to 8 p.m. on the South Lawn. Please join us no matter what age or how well you think you can dance. You can bring snacks or your dinner if you'd like, and we'll have some refreshments provided as well. This event is sponsored by the Family Ministry Team and the lively Spirit Dancers. Registration for the Faith Formation program for our young people has begun. Please register all children and youth at the link in the newsletter. Our programs begin in 2 weeks. If you are interested in guiding our young people on their faith formation journey, see Kathy Underwood for more information. There's still an opportunity to participate in a town hall meeting about AI on Tuesday, September 9th on Zoom, rescheduled for September 3rd. The discussion will help shape the upcoming workshops about AI. The registration link is in our weekly newsletter. Lastly, in honor of our nation's Labor Day celebration, there will be 2 marches to support the labor movement on Monday, September 1st. One of these is from the UUA Side with Love Action Center in solidarity with service and restaurant workers outside Trump Tower, downtown Chicago from 2 to 3:30 p.m. And the other is a protest march themed Workers Over Billionaires, organized by multiple labor organizations. It runs from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Haymarket Memorial at 151 North Des Plaines Street in Chicago. And now, let us settle in together, gather our attention, and share this time of reflection, celebration, and inspiration. As we begin our worship service, let's quiet our electronics and our bodies as we join in beloved community. Welcome to worship. Thank you, and let's give a welcome to Ken Smith as well. The Unitarian Church of Evanston resides on the traditional homelands of the Council of Three Fires, the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations. The land where we sit was transferred from the local Potawatomi community to the U.S. government in 1829, sold to white settlers, and then, after the defeat of a pan-Indian movement to keep white settlers out of the Great Lakes region, the Potawatomi community had no choice but to sell before being forcefully removed west of the Mississippi River. We also remember the ancestors of contemporary African Americans, the individuals, families, and networks of Black people who built up our country's culture and economy, which was a role forced on them originally by enslavement. We are indebted to their labor and unwilling sacrifice, and acknowledge the tremors of that violence throughout the generations, still felt and witnessed today. We offer these acknowledgments as one small effort toward building long-term solidarity with contemporary communities. We commit ourselves to incorporate these admissions into our lives and turn our thoughts into actions. Please join in our words of shared commitment. We name these realities with honor for all the ancestors, respect for our descendants, and gratitude for the land we use as sacred space. The Chris Isley Cancer Support Group brings the flowers and lights the chalice in loving recognition of those we honored at this morning's service of remembrance. As they light our chalice, symbol of our living tradition, please join in saying responsibly the words on the screen. I'll get us started and invite you to join me. In a time of uncertainty, when everything around us is constantly changing, when the world we live in suddenly seems upside down and topsy-turvy, in the midst of it all, we wrap ourselves in the warm light of a familiar flame, a reminder of the covenants when we come together in community. Thank you. Please rise in body or spirit and join in saying the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Before we sing our opening hymn, I invite those joining us online to greet each other in the chat, and those gathered in the sanctuary to turn to one another briefly to say good morning, trying to greet someone who is new to you.
Please stay after the service to continue your conversations. And if you're new to UCE, please stop by the welcome table with the red tablecloth at the back of the sanctuary to get more information about our community. Hope we keep building and creating kinship among us. I'm the Reverend Eileen. I am the senior minister of this congregation, and I use she, her pronouns. It's good to be with you this morning. Our opening hymn is number 108, My Life Flows On in Endless Song.
good morning on this lovely Labor Day weekend. Today's Time for All Ages is about our flaming chalice. Oh, I gave it away already. So what object tells you we are in a Unitarian congregation? The flaming chalice. Woohoo! And this is, of course, true in a Universalist congregation as well as a Unitarian Universalist congregation. And like most religious symbols, there is a story behind it. And we're going to watch a short video about that story.
The flaming chalice is perhaps the most recognized symbol of Unitarian Universalism. At the beginning of every worship service, no matter where they are, Unitarian Universalists light a chalice. But it wasn't always so. Today, you will find the flaming chalice in many forms, shapes, and sizes. You can find it on buildings, on clothing, on jewelry, and in many other places in and outside of Unitarian Universalist congregations. Back in 1939, a Unitarian minister and his wife, Martha and Waitstill Sharp, traveled to Europe on behalf of American Unitarians to see how they could help people targeted by the Nazis. The Nazis were becoming bolder in their discrimination and violence against Jewish people, gay people, Roma people, and people with disabilities. Martha and Waitstill helped people in danger get food and clothing and reach safety. They worked secretively, forging documents, even wearing disguises. This was the beginning of the Unitarian Service Committee, now the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. Many people trying to escape the Nazis didn't have the papers they needed to travel to safer countries. So the Unitarian Service Committee decided to create their own documents and asked Austrian artist Hans Dusch, himself a refugee, to create a seal for the papers to make them look official. Hans created the flaming chalice, which was printed at the top of the documents issued by the Unitarian Service Committee to help people travel to safety. The flaming chalice, so important to Unitarian Universalists today, was founded on a brave and creative commitment to human rights. Today, the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee continues to support people targeted because of who they are or forced to flee their homes. And around the world, the flaming chalice continues to be a symbol of community, compassion, and justice.
Our symbol of light and hope came during a time of war and despair. When the Unitarians and Universalists merged in 1961, the flaming chalice became the official symbol of Unitarian Universalism. The symbol at that time, and still, has two overlapping circles around the chalice to represent each of those traditions. So what else do you notice about that image? Shout it out. Something seems a little weird, doesn't it? A little askew, perhaps. Yeah, the chalice is a little bit off-centered. Yes? And that was meant to signify how Universalism had grown from the Christian tradition, but yet was open to other possibilities. Interestingly, oops, I went too far. It wasn't until the 1980s that the flaming chalice symbol became a real object, a three-dimensional object, like the one we have here. Curricula used in the late 70s stressed the meaning of the chalice and encouraged children to make chalices in different media. And so thus, the chalice lit in our service came from the children in our religious education programs. The first documented uses of chalices in the sanctuary are from when children and youth led worship and then demonstrated this practice to the adults in the congregation. Isn't that a cool thing? Yay, kids. And the tradition of making chalices out of a variety of materials continues today. Many ways to make a chalice. We have clay, terracotta pots, Easter eggs, believe it or not, and of course, Legos. Where would it be without Legos? So now, when you light a chalice, whether here at UCE, at home, in your dorm room, or anywhere you may be in the world, remember that it came from the courage of the Sharps and the UUSC, and from the young people of our faith.
I invite us now to settle into our time of sharing the joys and sorrows of this community. If you have a joy or a sorrow that you'd like to share, and any Sunday, you can write it in the book that's found on the table just as you enter the sanctuary. You can send me or Reverend Susan an email, or you can fill out the form found on the homepage of our website. We listen to these offerings with tenderness and with respect, and so we try to quiet our minds and our bodies and our voices as best as we're able in this moment to be able to be present to them by taking in a deep breath together. So let's do that now. And let it out. Sometimes it's hard to be able to catch our breaths during the week, so we relish that experience together. These are the joys and sorrows that have been shared today. Aaron Testard, Topher Carrington, and Jim Dibble are grieving the death of their beloved dog, Mitzi, this week. Mitzi, a Chihuahua rat terrier with the spirit of a pit bull, lived to be 18 years old. We'll always remember her love and long runs on the beach and Friday night chicken dinners. She was a great joy in our lives, and we miss her every day. And Jim Dibble recently spent a few weeks in Springfield, Massachusetts, caring for his parents while his mother recovers from unexpected hip surgery. Mom's in a rehabilitation center now and will be back home next week. Jim is thankful for his parents, neighbors, and church community who helped him prepare their home for first floor living. A joy today from Craig and Jolynn Cotton, who were married 57 years ago on September 1st. Congratulations. A joy for the beautiful remembrance service today. Thank you for being together with us in our grief. Thank you to the Chris Isley Cancer Support Group. Joy for, this is from Peter Silverman, a joy for experiencing a luminous road trip to the Southwest with my dear friend, Rabbi, I'm going to have trouble with this name. I couldn't hear you, but Sui Barn David. Okay. We both come back changed and deepened. A sorrow from Kathy Underwood, and a joy. We say goodbye to Mary McDonald, who has been one of our child care providers. Stop by the nursery to wish her well as she begins studying at Oakton Community College. And From Jeanette, more joy than sorrow in the wondrous memories of my husband, Hal Gordon, who passed away a year ago last Thursday. We hold all of these joys and sorrows with care and respect for one another. It's part of the practice of beloved community, knowing that we together expand our celebrations and we lessen the burden of our grief. And I want you to know that you are always invited to reach out to me or to Reverend Susan or Reverend Elizabeth or our pastoral care team if you need more care and support than simply sharing that or lighting a candle provides. Reach out anytime. And we know that there are lots of joys that don't get spoken aloud. So we light a candle, we drop a stone into the well of tears, which overflows and holds and supports us in community. So you're invited to come forward either to this table or one of the side tables to light a candle. And if you need one brought to you, Kathy will walk around with a basket. Just raise your hand. Thank you. For these joys, we give our thanks. For these sorrows, we give our love. Please join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation. I share this prayer by Reverend Christopher Boyce, a Unitarian Universalist reimagining of the prayer of St. Francis. Spirit of life, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is indifference, may we bring justice. Where there is selfishness, may we bring equity. Where there is stagnation, may we bring transformation. Where there is homogeneity, may we bring pluralism. Where there is isolation, may we bring interdependence. Where there is greed, may we bring generosity. And where there is hatred, may we bring love. Make us instruments of your peace with love at the center of everything we do. Amen, and blessed be. Our response is number 95, There is More Love. And as we sing it, notice that this hymn is an African American spiritual for which we offer royalties to the Community Reparations Fund. It's set to the tune in our hymnal called Biko, named after the Black South African activist Stephen Bantu Biko, who was arrested by the government and killed because he was raising the consciousness of Black South Africans to resist the oppression of apartheid. We sing this with sorrow, and we sing it with resolve to keep actively searching for more love and more peace.
As we say in our covenant every Sunday, service is our law. UCE is called by our mission, values, and principles to contribute to our community, to form accountable partnerships, and to express gratitude through giving. Today's offering will be shared with UUANI, whose mission is to build power among UU congregations in Illinois to accountably advocate with those who have been historically marginalized. UUANI provides leadership training, builds congregational capacity, and organizes statewide advocacy efforts in loving accountability with our partners. You may text to give, mail in a check, put cash in the collection bowls, or give from our website. If you write a check, please indicate in the memo line if your check is for the shared offering or some other giving. The ushers will now come forward to pass the collection bowls down the rows. Please give as generously as you are able, and may what you give bring you joy. Thank you for that splendid piece, and thank you all for your generosity. This is an excerpt from a post by Rebecca Solnit titled, "On Not Surrendering in Advance or Any Point Thereafter." So important. A friend of mine reminded me that the word encourage literally means to instill courage. We can do that, or its opposite, with how we speak, with what we say, with how we show up. It's not the only work we can do during this emergency, but it's an important part of it. It's a big part of how we express a spirit of defiance, of resoluteness, how we act with the knowledge that emotions and attitudes are contagious, be they fear or courage, strength or weakness, kindness or cruelty. We have power, not just in forestalling authoritarianism, because even if you think it's too late for that, we have countless examples of people who were amazing under authoritarianism, some of whom did win, sometimes in big ways by toppling regimes, often in small ways by living with integrity, by protecting a person or a book or an idea or a principle. Václav Havel famously declared,
"The kind of hope I often think about, I understand above all as a state of mind, not a state of the world. It is a dimension of the soul. It's not essentially dependent on some particular observation of the world or estimate of the situation. Hope is not prognostication. It is an orientation of the spirit, an orientation of the heart. It transcends the world that is immediately experienced and is anchored somewhere beyond its horizons. Hope is the deep and powerful sense is not the same as joy, that things are going well, or willingness to invest in enterprises that are obviously headed for early success, but rather an ability to work for something because it is good, not just because it stands a chance to succeed."
Solnit goes on to say, "But if you show up and do the work, you might win. And part of winning is taking the attitude that, as Havel notes, what you can do is worth doing despite the fact that you can't know the outcome. At the very least, you've won the battle of how to be the most heroic version of yourself." The power of authoritarians is not unlimited. The power of people under authoritarians is not non-existent. Havel, it's really important to say, said those words when he was a playwright who'd been imprisoned multiple times for his outspoken opposition to the Czechoslovakian totalitarian state. It would have been courageous of Havel at this point to believe that he could it would have been outrageous of Havel at this point to believe that he could, within a few years, help topple the Czech regime and become its first president after doing so. And then he did. Don't let what you do be limited by what you assume is possible. What you do has to be governed by common sense and wisdom, but those sometimes tell us to not assume we know the limits. The first rule of the future is that no one quite knows what it will be. And major changes not uncommonly emerge from players who were not long before invisible, dismissed, or derided. Even in the worst circumstances, people have power, the power to decide how they will conduct themselves in the choices that remain to them, and that includes the power of our words. And with that, I'm going to introduce this incredible video by Mia Loris, Be the Light. Her video affirms this message.
There is always a light when we are ready to see it. There is always a light when we are ready to be it, to see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night, to climb this hill. Together we will. There is always a light in the dark. We are ready to see it. There is always a light in the dark. We are ready to be it, to see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night and be a gift. Together we will. There is always a light. There is always a light. We are ready to see it. There is always a light. There is always a light. We are ready to be it, to see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night and be a gift. Together we will. There is always light. There is always light. There is always light. There is always light. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night and be a climb this hill. Together we will. There is always light. There is always light. There is always light. There is always light. Be the light.
In February 1939, Unitarian minister Waitstill Sharp and his wife Martha went to Czechoslovakia at the invitation of a close colleague and on behalf of the Unitarian denomination. They went to do whatever could be done within their power to help refugees under attack. It was a lot to ask of them. They had 2 small children at home in Massachusetts. 17 others had been asked and declined, but the Sharps felt compelled, so they said yes. The Sharps fully understood the danger they were saying yes to, but knowing what they knew, they couldn't turn away from the horrors unfolding. Though they were very much afraid, they held each other's hands, called up their courage, and relied on the sureness of their values to accept the risks and help those who were in much greater danger. Once in Prague, they heard Reverend Norbert Čapek preach, the Unitarian minister who you may remember was the creator of our flower communion ceremony. He created that in the 1920s and then was later murdered by the Nazis in a concentration camp. The Sharps were in Prague in time to witness Hitler's invasion on March 15th. Inspired by the brave and powerful words of Čapek with the protection of their American identity, and because they had the necessary visas to enable them to move more freely between countries, they escorted Jews into France, where they were safe for a time. After some truly harrowing escapes and ensuring the safety of many, they returned home to their family in Massachusetts. But it wasn't long before they were called by the president of the American Unitarian Association, Frederick Elliott, who all but demanded they return to Europe. France had been invaded, and refugees were fleeing to the south. Those that they'd helped escape were in danger again. Neither Waitstill nor Martha wanted to go back. Most Americans weren't yet concerned about the war in Europe, but the Sharps were. They went back and helped many more escape, including hundreds of children who were turned over to strangers by their parents in the hopes that they might be spared. It is hard to imagine making the same choices the Sharps did, to leave their children again, to risk their lives again, and to help people who didn't know, whom they didn't know on another continent. But they did. Their courageous acts didn't end the war. They didn't save every person, but they did do something extraordinary. They responded to the call of love to defend the humanity of others. For their bravery, the Sharps are 2 of 5 Americans named righteous among nations by the state of Israel. Martha often said anyone would do what they did, which of course is not true. But she also said, a series of miracles can happen when many people become concerned and are willing to act at the right time, end quote. She didn't say how to act. She didn't talk about how much courage it would take to act or how big of a deal it was. But when all of us take some action, that's when miracles take place. Each of us must decide what we can do within our own circumstances to make a difference in this world. But what is also true is that our actions are never in isolation. The Sharps would not have been successful in their efforts if they hadn't been a part of a vast network of people cooperating to resist the horrors and bring innocents to safety. They would not have been able to save those children if there weren't people in America waiting to take them in. Waitstill and Martha listened to their conscience and were true to their values. They believed the spirit of life was calling them in this way to respond to evil. But they didn't act out of a desire to be remembered as heroes, and they didn't act alone. It's easy to look at history and the rise of perhaps the most deadly and evil authoritarian regime our world has never known and wonder how so many people could have allowed it to happen. It's easy to chastise the complicity of those who didn't revolt against fascism in the past. It's easy to imagine what we might have done if we were alive at such times, to believe that our own courage, insight, or heroism would have been able to stop it. But we are in such times, here and now. Our nation is falling hard and fast into unapologetic authoritarianism, and we don't have to wonder what we'd do. It's happening now, and we're doing what we would do. And in the midst of the overwhelming chaos intentionally hurled at us, it can be hard to imagine how anything we do will truly matter. Despair can immobilize us, and yet each day and in each moment we can continue to ask and answer the question, what is love calling me to do right now? How is love asking me, asking us to respond to what is unfolding around us seemingly beyond our control? I want to be clear that you do not have to travel around the world, leave your family, put yourself in greater peril than you perhaps already might be in, to live the values of love, justice, and equity. I would not ask that of any of you or expect it of myself, but as a faith leader, I am compelled to encourage us all to keep asking ourselves how, within our power and our circumstances, we are called to respond to the active evil unfolding before us. Our job in this moment is not to try to be solitary heroes, but to build coalitions of nonviolent, non-cooperative resistance. We can see every day that we can't rely on the institutions we've put our faith in, as each one complies either in advance or without much of a fight. Big law firms, big media, big universities are one by one folding like houses of cards. However, it is the millions of people with the least power and money who are gathering their courage to resist together in countless small ways. The website Waging Nonviolence reminds us that diversified, sustained, and collective actions of nonviolence are much harder to repress. Think of the Montgomery bus boycott, the Pullman Porter strikes, and countless labor organizing movements. Think of the movements of nonviolent and non-cooperative resistance in India and South Africa that overcame deeply embedded repressive regimes. This kind of resistance, organized, multi-million people strong, can't be targeted because these are covert, diffuse, and unrelenting actions, and they have life-giving, community-building love at the center. Non-cooperative resistance might not make as compelling a story as shepherding refugees to safety while the Gestapo looms, but it can be no less powerful. Boycotts and boycotts are ways of using our collective consumer power to affect the bottom line of corporations that have complied with this regime. Showing up to a protest might feel performative rather than effective, but it builds momentum and solidarity. Staying informed, not from the 24-hour capitalized cable news cycle, but by reading people who are speaking truth to power. These are all ways of resisting the perversion of truth. Contacting our representatives and staying engaged in local politics, these build our communal resilience. Our small efforts are part of a widespread tapestry of covert resistance that requires all of us, regardless of our identity, capacity, or status. The greatest threat to our collective well-being, the greatest weapon being used against us, is our own apathy, fear, and overwhelm. How many of us feel numb? A lot of times. How many of us, when we hear of another school shooting or another basic human right being evaporated or another unprecedented aspect of human decency we'd taken for granted being eroded, how many of us want to shut down? How many feel immobilized by fear when you hear about the unchecked power sweeping away our democratic institutions? How many wonder, what can I possibly do to stop any of this from happening? That numbness and that fear you're feeling is by design. It's a deliberate tactic and it works, but it doesn't have to. It's why it's so important to keep turning back to each other, reminding each other that we are stronger and more powerful together than any evil repressive regime can ever be. We can take inspiration from the Sharp story, but it can also feel daunting and impossible to live up to what they did. Watching the Ken Burns film about them, I felt woefully negligent in my efforts to resist. But let's remember that the world doesn't need us to do exactly what they did. The world needs us, each of us, to take whatever circumstances we're in, with whatever resources we have and whatever access we have, to use those things and keep asking ourselves what we're called to do today with what we have and where we are. I may seem like a broken record talking about our Beacons of Light vigils on Thursday evenings, and I want to be clear that I don't think that standing on the corner for half an hour a week is going to solve all our problems. But I do feel energized and recommitted to participating in whatever small ways I can to collective non-cooperation and nonviolence whenever we gather and hear the encouraging honks and of so many people passing by and waves. They're not all waving nicely, but most of them are. We're going to keep these vigils going through September at 7 o'clock, and then we're talking about moving them earlier as daylight wanes, starting in October to 6 o'clock. So that'll make you choir folks able to do both if you want to. But I want to tell you about something that happened a few Thursday evenings ago at the corner of Dempster and Ridge. One among you was telling me about a conversation between them and someone walking by. In addition to the honks and waves of people in cars, there are also pedestrians who walk by and have a bit more of a chance to ask us what we're up to and engage in conversation. One such person said he liked most of the messages that he was seeing on our signs, but he didn't know about the one that said protect trans kids. He didn't really know what trans meant. He'd only heard about it from hateful, ignorant voices. But after having a pleasant, non-judgmental conversation with one of you, he ended up saying that he had some things to think about. And he also said, what you're doing here, this is true. Standing on the corner and holding signs with messages of kindness, love, and tolerance isn't everything, but it is true. And it is one way of building a transformative movement of liberating love one person at a time. Love is at the center of our faith, love that is more powerful than hate and fear. We need to keep asking ourselves what love is asking us to do right now to bring it into the center and drive out fear. We needn't ask ourselves in what ways we might be remembered as heroes years from now, but instead ask ourselves what small actions might coalesce and merge into wider circles of care and trust, which could grow into larger and larger movements of broad, diverse, sustainable, nonviolent action. Resistance is not futile. It can take many forms, and the more diverse and diffuse, the less possible it is for authoritarian tactics to derail it. Our collective non-cooperation can take the form of continuing the work of racial justice, environmental justice, immigrant justice, economic and housing justice, like we're doing. Non-cooperation with authoritarianism can take the shape of greater cooperation with our community partners, including the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, the organization that evolved out of the Sharp's work. The UUSC continues to act boldly and bravely to support the grassroots movements of the most vulnerable people around the world. We can support their work financially or by learning more how they advocate for human rights and joining them. Resistance can mean financially supporting sources of truth and information like public radio and public television. It can be our continued efforts to feed the hungry and house the unhoused. It can be accompanying people to citizenship hearings or hosting Know Your Rights training. It can be supporting a friend or showing up for those who feel afraid and alone. It can be participating in a Labor Day action tomorrow or signing up with the Catalyst for Democracy team here at UCE at the back. We don't have to act individually or invent new ways to resist. We don't have to be a selfless or fearless superhero to make a difference. What we do need is one another and the wider wisdom of the multitudes who are fighting not with weapons or cruelty, but with everyday kindness, mutuality, and love. Fear is easy. Hate is easy. Silence is easy. Love takes courage. And asking ourselves again and again what love calls us to do and be in this world takes courage. My prayer for all of us is that we don't get stuck in the hopelessness of thinking we have to do everything or in the certainty that we can do nothing. Every moment that has ever overcome tyranny and advanced justice has begun with individuals doing one small thing and inviting one more to join them, and then another and another, until small miracle upon small miracle, single act of kindness upon single act of kindness, a vast web of transformative love has turned the tide. May our collective non-cooperation blot out fear and hatred until love reaches out from the core and covers all the world. May it be so. May we know that we can and we will make it so.
Reverend Eileen, I am going to share that you have helped me fill my heart with more courage. Thank you. As we extinguish the chalice, please join in saying the words on the screen by the Reverend Elizabeth Sell Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our closing hymn, number 159, This Is My Song, sung to the tune of Finlandia, a tone poem by the Finnish composer Jean Sibelius. Written in 1899, it was composed as a covert protest against increasing censorship from the Russian Empire. In order to avoid Russian censorship, Finlandia had to be performed under alternative names at various musical concerts. The tune was set to the words of Lloyd Stone in 1934 as a prayer for peace.
we continue to courageously ask ourselves what love is calling us to do to resist fear and hatred and to advance collective liberation and mutual flourishing for everyone, everywhere. And may the answer come from our actions united together. Go making peace.